Okay, hello and welcome to another episode of Hiring and Inspiring. Today's guest is Zach Mceady. Zach joins me all the way from the US. He's a guy I've recently connected with who has very recently started a new role in the world of sales. And I came across his profile because he very much sort of put himself out there and documented his whole job searching journey on LinkedIn, the ups, downs, the roller coaster, and then the eventual success of landing his first role. And I followed it along, and now he just started his new role. I'm actually catching up with him as he just started. So I'm looking forward to connecting with Zach a little bit more, finding out how is documenting the whole job search went for him, how it helped him out, and his sort of his career goals and how he's looking to really progress his career in the world of sales. So, Zach, with that introduction, mate, welcome to the show. How are you getting on?
Joe, that was an amazing introduction, bro. I don't know how I can follow after that, man. But yeah, I'm doing good. Like you said, today was my first day, so just trying to get acclimated with everything. And yeah, I've been through a lot over the last few years, so definitely want to, tell my story and help anybody else who I can.
Sounds good, mate. Well, let's do that. So, I should have probably said Zach has recently joined Intuit. Um,
Yeah,
as a salesperson. So let's start with that. You were talking just before they called it day zero, your first day.
yeah,
Just recently, how was it? How was the first day? Tell me a bit about it.
yeah. I mean, it was pretty decent. I like the fact that they didn't really bombard me with too much information, even though it was a lot. Um, you know, everybody's first day, they told me that it might be a little bit hectic. With people, some people didn't get their equipment yet. Thankfully, I got all my equipment on time. I pretty much set everything up, but can't really complain about too much. It was basically straightforward to the point, a little bit hectic, a little bit had some technical issues with some things, but other than that, it was fine. It was really
Yeah,
fun.
good stuff, mate. So what I want to get into is, and it's how I initially came across your profile and we connected, is how I mentioned you documented the whole process of finding your first role in the world of sales. You documented it all on LinkedIn. You put it all out there. It took a bit of a time. I think there were some ups and downs. Describe to me a little bit about that whole process of documenting the job search on LinkedIn. Why did you do that, and how did it ultimately help you out?
Yeah, so this is my first sales role in terms of like software sales. So I've been in sales before. So my sales career started back in college. I was in college for my associate's degree in business, and it was there I met a friend who introduced me to the financial services industry through network marketing. So that's like when you're recruiting, strangers, making friends, friends and family, selling financial services products, learning how the world works in terms of like just how to sell and how to market. So that was really my starting point. But ever since then, I've always been interested in just getting better, knowing how I can make more money. But long story short, I got into tech sales because with all the side hustles that I was doing over the last 5 years, I kind of pretty much had a breaking point. And I needed to go into an industry where my previous experience could actually, well, I needed to go to an industry where I felt like I had huge upside, but with my previous experience, I could actually provide value to, if that makes sense. So that's pretty much how I got started in tech sales, and why I documented the whole part was I don't know if a lot of people probably haven't heard of him, but his name is Dan Coe. He's been blowing up over the last 2 years or so, but I've been following him, and I'm very inspired by what he did. He is an entrepreneur, and he just talks about writing
Yeah,
and building. during the process, whatever it is that you're doing, learn how to write, learn how to build, learn how to market, learn how to sell. So that kind of resonated with me because I have multiple passions, and I kind of just wanted to write about what I was doing. And everything just started clicking. I'm like, okay, I'm going to
Yeah,
document this whole process. So that's why I started documenting. It was just based off of inspiration. I saw somebody else doing it.
yeah. Because you never know who's going to be following along, or never know who's listening to your story. Is that right?
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
And how did it help you? Do you think, documenting it? How did it help your process of finding this first job?
Oh, it changed my life. It helped me tremendously.
Okay.
I don't think without documenting, I don't think I would have gotten as fast as I did.
Hmm.
I probably would have gotten in, but without documenting, I don't think I would have
Do you think it
at
like it
all.
kept you accountable? Like it kept you going when on the days when you maybe didn't want to keep applying or keep interviewing for stuff. That documenting the process just kept
Oh
that
yeah.
accountability.
Oh yeah, absolutely. My main thing was just getting 1% better a day. So I
Yeah.
wasn't trying to post. One thing I like about LinkedIn is the algorithm kind of works for digital minimalist in a sense. So like you don't have to post multiple times a day to gain traction. You can only post once and you can still gain traction. So I realized that and I was like, wow, there's people who only post once a day and they're blowing up on LinkedIn. Like it's
Mm.
like LinkedIn is still, even though it's an older platform, it's still a little bit more organic when it comes to the reach that you have, right? So I'm
Mm.
like, I just have to post once a day. As long as I'm documenting and telling my story, I can
Yeah.
blow up easily. Because I saw somebody else doing it on LinkedIn, and
Okay. Yeah.
his name is Phoenix Rose, and he helped me out a lot. I don't know if you know who Phoenix is. He's in the tech world as well.
Mm.
Um, but I saw him doing it, and he did it the exact same way that I did. I just copied his framework,
Yeah.
documenting. But he documented it in terms of like him actually from his first day in tech sales.
Yeah.
I documented it to get into tech sales.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So that's how that came about.
That process of that guy you mentioned documenting his now he's in tech sales, is that something you're gonna continue? Are you gonna continue documenting your journey now you're doing it?
Yep, absolutely. Today,
Mm.
I actually just made a post a couple hours ago. It's funny. I named it Day Zero. I started
Yeah.
off with Day Zero. So I think that's going to be kind of my theme. Just every
Mm.
90 days, I'm going to be documenting, you know, whatever it is that I'm doing, and then
Yeah.
have like a month period where I kind of relax, get my mind right, work on, whatever um, what I need to work on in terms of like just taking everything in and then just going back to
Yeah.
it.
That's a great point. What you just said about getting your mind right, using it to get your mind right. Because even if no one sort of comes across your stuff, it doesn't gain it. You don't gain anything from it. One thing you gain from yourself is actually, because I do it quite a lot. I post on LinkedIn, my just reflections and journey, that kind of stuff. It's actually
Yeah,
quite therapeutic for myself. It's just a sense of, I don't journal as such, but I post on LinkedIn all the time, just my thoughts, and I find
yeah,
it quite therapeutic to just get my thoughts out there to the world.
absolutely. It's like a digital journal.
Mm.
That's exactly what it is. It's like a digital journal. So just doing that, you'll learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah, no, for sure. What would you say to then someone who's maybe you a few months back who made the decision that they wanted to get into tech sales. They don't necessarily have heaps of experience, but they want to break into it, and it's a competitive job market. Apart from the obvious, I think you're going to say maybe document the journey.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm sure you've done a bunch of interviews as well, and just sort of staying to the process. What advice would you give someone? How could you help them? Do you think?
Yeah. The biggest advice I ever got during this whole process was know what you bring to the table,
Okay.
know what you have to offer. First and foremost, a lot of I've also heard somebody say it's not what you do, it's how you do it. So you can do all of these things that other people tell you to do, which is like do the job to get the job. And I can go down like I have a 3-step process for anybody who's trying to go and get into it. Um, But yeah, you can do all those steps that I would say, but if you don't do it in a certain way with confidence and having the belief inside of yourself that you can actually get into the role that you want, then it's not
Yeah,
going to work. And that's
yeah,
with anything that you do, right? So the main piece of advice is having confidence and knowing what you bring to the table. And if you don't know what you bring to the table, I could say, you know, take out a piece of paper, or write on your laptop or your notes on your phone. Write down all your past accomplishments. This is what I did. Write down all your past accomplishments and just look
mm,
over that list. It doesn't even have to be big to somebody else, or you might not even think that it's big, but just write down your past accomplishments. Did you
yeah,
graduate college? Yes. Did you learn how to drive? Yeah, I did that. Something as small as that, just building out those list of things that you actually accomplished, and it was a big deal for you or even a small deal for you. And then you'll realize, like, wow, I have experience. I have what it takes to do something in this world. And then another thing is, write down your goals and look at it every day. Right. So another thing that I did was I wrote down, in present tense, affirmations. So I'm so happy and grateful now that I have a job as an SDR by so and so date. I just read it and looked at it every day. So that just helped my belief as well. So the main thing, it was a long answer to your question, but the main thing is build belief in yourself. That's the main advice that I could give.
yeah. Love it. What was the main objection or the main hurdles, let's say, you had to overcome to land this first job? Was there something that kept maybe coming up in the interview process that, got you, caught you out a little bit? Was there anything that was a main sort of roadblock, so to speak?
Yeah, the main thing that kept coming up is it's funny, um, which is why I said, know what you bring to the table is the biggest advice that I could give, is because the main thing that kept coming up for me was you don't have any experience,
Yep.
right? That was the main thing that kept coming up, and I'm like, this is an entry level role. The only experience that I need to have is customer facing roles. Like, do I know how to talk to people? Um, and the main thing that they're looking for in these entry level roles are, do you have grit? Are you coachable? Are you adaptable? But the thing is, I had those things, but I didn't believe in myself enough to communicate that to them.
Yeah.
Right. So that was the main thing that kept coming up. I couldn't even get past the phone screen. I only got past like maybe one or two in the beginning, but like for like 4 or 5 companies straight, I couldn't get past the phone screens. I'm like, what is going on? And then I talked to somebody, a good friend of mine, Dave, and he actually gave me that best advice. Again, know what you bring to the table. If you have, he asked me this question, and anybody who's listening, you can ask yourself this question. Knowing what based off of your past experiences, what is your superpower? Or, or it's on the tip of my tongue. I'm sorry, it caught me off guard. Um, yeah, no, based off your past experiences, what is your superpower? Or if you could describe yourself in one word, what would that be? What you bring to the table. If you could describe that in one word, what would that be? And for me, it was hustler. Because with everything that I've been through, all the experiences that I've had, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up. And once I understood that, that became my identity. And then straight after that, every interview I made it past the phone screen. I made it to
Yeah.
successful rounds, um, and it just kept on compounding from there.
So you took a step back and were like, right, what do I bring to the table? Because if you were getting stuck at that, like you don't have experience, yeah, we're not looking for loads of experience, but we just want someone who can, with the grit, with the resilience, who can work hard. But you couldn't almost demonstrate that on those phone calls or those initial interviews by
Right.
taking a step back and you actually, sounds like you just step back, right, what are some examples of in my life that I've
Mhm.
demonstrated that? And then you kind of reaffirm, oh yeah, shit, I can do it. I have got what they're after. I just need to demonstrate it.
Yeah.
and is that what you then did? Did you have to sort of give examples of that sort of stuff? By the way, did that help? Like saying, look, this is what I've done. These are the challenges I've overcome in my life to get where I am today. That's why I believe I can make it in tech sales. Is that what you had to do?
Close, not necessarily. Those things that I wrote down was just for me, just to build that confidence in myself, to remind
Yeah.
myself, like I can do whatever I put my mind to because I've done hard things before. And but the main thing that I did take a step back. I did ask myself, what were my past accomplishments? But the main thing was I had to relearn or learn how to tell my story in a confident way, right? Because whenever they say, "Oh, you don't have experience," for the most part, when it comes to sales at least, they're just saying, "I don't think that you have the confidence to do what needs to be done." Or you're not showing me that you have the
Yeah.
confidence that I can do the job at hand. And the main thing is if you're in an interview, you are already qualified. That's another thing. If you're in an interview, you're already qualified. So it's just your job to tell the story. That's all your job is your job is to tell a story and sell yourself and market yourself.
Yeah. That's it. An interview is like it's a sales meeting.
Yep.
You have to pitch yourself, especially for a sales role. You have to pitch why you think you're a fit, why you can do it, and then also, it's a fact finding exercise from both parties to sort of see, is this person right for us, and then for you to go, is this opportunity, um, right for you.
Absolutely.
Before we sort of get too much into that, I want to talk a little bit about. I think you had some sales training earlier this year.
Yeah.
How do you think that was sort of? How did that prepare you for, or how is that going to stand you in good stead? Do you think for the upcoming sales career, that the tech sales career that you've entered?
Yeah, I think the training that I had is called Course Careers. It was a boot camp. Um, Trent, I think you found me off of his post. Trent Dressel, he's an amazing instructor. He's been in tech sales for the last 5 or 6 years.
Yep.
Um, so funny thing is, I found his content and a couple others on TikTok maybe like 2 years ago talking about tech sales. I was like, okay, that's when the seed was planted in my mind.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and then, long story short, earlier this year in January, I finally pulled the trigger, with everything going on. And course careers, without course careers, again, I don't think I would have gotten in because what course careers did, it actually gave me a foundation on what tech sales was actually like. Because I know when it from the outside looking in, you really don't know what B2B sales is. Most people, I come from B2C, so business
Yeah.
to customer, and it's a whole different ball game, than B2B. And that's what actually intrigued me about B2B because B2B is more professional, I would say. It's less pressure tactics that you might find if you're selling somebody a cell phone or a car or whatever it is, like a clothing item. You're actually selling big business, so you can't really use pressure tactics. So that was the main thing, that I got from course careers is just the mindset. It's a whole different ball game. It's more professional, and it helped me get prepared on what it's like in the textile space.
Yeah. And now you're in it. If we've talked a little bit about the past, what you've done to sort of get to where you are, if we sort of switch it up and look towards the future a little bit, where do you see your? I know it's very early days, not the easiest question to answer, but where do you see your career going? What are some of your future sort of ambitions now you're in? Now you're in it.
Yeah, absolutely. My main goal is to become a sales engineer in the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
Um, Preferably three. But yeah, become a sales engineer, and from there, just fund my life. Fund my hobbies. And for the longest, like the early my I'm 26 now, so like the first 5 years of my 20s, I was pretty much, just trial and error. I think that's what your 20s are for, just to, go out and try things. Like Gary Vee says, you really don't know what you want until you try it. So that's what I did. I took that advice. I moved all over the world. I traveled. I was in Miami the last 2 years, just came back home. And I really found out, like, man, I have multiple passions again.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that because whenever I was doing my side hustles or into my other businesses that I was trying to, get off the ground, um, I didn't really want to do anything that I wasn't passionate about. And recently I learned that it's not about your passion, it's about your craft, right? And I didn't really understand that. And by craft, I mean, like, when you come from a passion mindset, I got this from Cal Newport. He has a great book called Deep Work. You can look him up on YouTube. He does amazing videos. But when you're talking about passion, the mindset typically is, what can this job do for me, or what can this opportunity do for me? Whereas if you're talking about craftsmanship and actually building a craft, you're thinking from the mindset of, what can I offer this job? What can I offer this opportunity? How can I become better? And it's more so a lifestyle way of thinking rather than just, a passion. So it's more long term, right? So when I think about a craft, I'm thinking about 10, 20, 30 years from now. What is going to fuel my ideal lifestyle? And I look at everybody that I've studied, the Ed Milet's of the world, the Grant Cardones, um, all these moguls that people look at nowadays, right? And they're like, oh, how do you get there? And I look at them and they started in sales. All of them. Majority of them, not all of them, but majority of them. They started in sales. Alex Alex Hormozy started in sales, right? So it was just, for me, that's just my major thing is, learning a skill and being great at that skill. Doesn't matter what I'm doing, I can get a job and then have that job fund my lifestyle in the
Yeah.
future. I don't like, I stopped thinking about, oh, what am I passionate about? And I started thinking about what's going to get me to my ideal lifestyle, and it changed my life.
That's great. Love that. So the craft you're talking about, you're now saying sales is your craft to develop over the next few years. That's what you're looking to pursue, because I think about this quite a lot. The whole, should you, especially if you're young, right, and you're looking for a
Hmm.
new role and you're looking for a career, that whole, should you, follow your passion, or do you find your passion? And for a while, I used to think that you should follow your passion. So what am I passionate about? Let's pursue that.
Hmm.
But I don't actually think that's great advice, because for me, say, like, I'm passionate about sports or something like that, but then if I had followed that passion, I would be broke and wouldn't have a job. I'm not good
Yeah.
enough. Um, Whereas recruitment and sales, I just tried it as a
Hmm.
21-year-old, 22-year-old. I fell into it, and inadvertently I found my passion.
Hmm.
Like, I was like, all right, this is. I didn't even realize this was a thing, but I love it. And like you say, tried to develop that craft. Um, and I think it's admirable what you say about all the guys you mentioned. They started in sales, and then from there they they built that sort of that portfolio, whatever they built their business acumen from there. I've got to ask, mate, what do you think? Maybe are there things that may stand in your way, your objections or challenges that you're going to overface? No doubt that there will be some. Now you're in this role. What do you
Hmm.
think are maybe some big challenges that you may face now you're in this position?
Wow, that is a great question. There's When it comes to objections or just challenges in general, it's pretty much the same thing. For whatever it is that you're doing, there are times where you're optimistic, but you're uninformed about everything. Give me 1 second, brother. I'm sorry. Sorry to I'm so sorry, brother.
No
Um,
stress, no stress.
but yeah, what I was saying was, when it comes to objections and challenges, you're pretty much always going to have the same type of challenges in the world, whatever it is that you're doing. But for me, I think the main things that I'm going to come up with are just the fact that I'm new, right? I'm in a new role. I'm in a new industry. Um, People are going to reject me. That's the main thing, rejection. I've kind of learned that not to take rejection to heart. Just with everything, just with experience, you're going to get told no. Um, and then just, I think that's a major thing, bro. Is just rejection, and then just stickability.
Yeah,
I'm learning to stick with whatever it is that I'm doing. And that's another thing with documenting it teaches you in real time to stick with whatever it is that you're
yeah.
doing.
It's
So
that discipline.
stickability, absolutely discipline. So, the discipline, the facing the rejection, all of that's going to come, and I'm excited to prove myself basically.
Yeah. Can I come back? Can I keep bouncing back from these setbacks? That's what I always find in sales. People who make it, they can brush it off and go again.
Yeah.
Where if you can't take it, then you don't. I think on that point, this is something I always think about with any salesperson. When they get hit with those rejections, or when they, get hit with, lose a deal that doesn't quite, it's a roller coaster, right? Working in sales, it can be a real challenge.
Mm.
What successful people in sales often do, they have something that's what I call like a why, like it's something that they stick, that they come back to, that gets them out of bed the next day to keep coming back. You touched upon maybe a few things. You want to build the right lifestyle for yourself, or something like that. Without, I don't want to ask too much of a personal question, but what is your sort of why that is? Do you think that you will go back to, say, when you do have a tough day, when you do take a bunch of rejection, what's your personal why that is going to keep you coming back for more, would you say?
Yeah, that's a great question. You mentioned why, and when I look at why, I like words, right? So when I look at why, I think about what's hurting you. That's what why stands for. What's hurting you.
Okay.
And for the longest time, I've always wanted to just take care of my family. Just growing up, you know, my parents divorced when I was 7. Couldn't really see my dad that much because he was in the military. Um, I had to stay with my mom, and then I saw her go from pretty much zero to six figures now, but now she's working all the time, and she has no time. And a few years ago, um, I asked her, I said, "How long do you think you're going to be working?" She's like, "Oh, maybe another 20 years." I'm like, "No, that is not going to happen." Because I grew up watching her get to where she is now, and I see how tired she is. Recently she just had a stroke. So that's my why. I need to take care of my family, right? It's my
Yeah.
Some people, they just want to take care of themselves, or whatever. They want to get the girls, or they want to be on a yacht and all these other things. They want to fly on a private jet. I want to fly on a private jet. But the main thing, I want to take care of my family. I want to retire my mom. I want to put my little brother through school, through college. I want to do everything in my power to take care of my family, and that's my why.
Yeah, mate, very admirable. Like you say, everyone's why is different. Some people want to earn loads of money for themselves, or some people just want to be, the best in the office. They just want that prestige.
Yeah.
And yeah, everyone's why is different, really. But mate, that's really strong. That's definitely going to stand you in good stead, I feel, in the new role. One final question for you, and this is quite, I guess, similar to what I just asked, but it's around the idea of success.
Mhm.
I guess maybe you, like you say, looking after your family is maybe success, but generally the idea of success, what does success mean to you?
You cut off at the end. You
Sorry,
said,
mate.
well, you're good.
Yeah,
Well,
just what does success mean to you?
yeah. So, wow, I was just thinking about this question last night, actually. Um, so I'm not. Do you know who Earl Nightingale is?
No.
So Earl Nightingale, he was one of the early pioneers when it comes to the self development industry or the personal development industry. And he said that success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So all those fancy words basically means success is anything that is worthy, and as long as you're moving towards it, right? So if you think so, if a mother thinks that success is to be the best mother on earth, as long as she's doing everything in her power to be the best mother, as long as she's moving towards that, then she is a success.
Mm.
Um, if you think success is having $1 million, as long as you're moving towards having $1 million, then you are a success, right? So, but me personally, it's along the lines of that, but it's also having the character to show that it's not just about the money, it's about the impact that you can make on other people's lives, regardless of the money. Are you a good person, right? Because money, the only thing that money will do is only going to expose who you really are, right? So if you're a terrible human being, if you have terrible character, then it's just going to magnify those issues until you get those issues taken care of. And I don't think that anybody is, you know, destined for a terrible character. I think that everybody has a possibility to change their life and change. Um, it just takes a decision. But yeah, that's my definition.
Love it, man. I think I really like how it's more about the journey rather than the actual end goal, right? So if you're on the right path, if
Yeah,
you're enjoying the pursuit, enjoying on track to achieve your goals, then that's success. Really great
absolutely.
stuff, mate. Zach, thank you so much for joining me on my show today. Really enjoyed having a chat to you. I think there's heaps that anyone who's looking to get into the world of tech sales, or even anyone who works in sales, can learn from yourself. I think the way you've documented your journey online, the ups, downs, putting it all out there, is really, really admirable. So no doubt I think that there's big things coming for you. I'm sure you're going to be really successful, in your own definition there, in your new role. And I look forward to staying tuned, and following along. So, Zach, thank you very much, mate. Really appreciate you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for having me on.